Hello, and welcome to a new episode of the Treasury of Constantinople. This week we'll talk about Emperor Anastasius's monetary reform of 498 AD. Let's start by having a look at why a reform was needed in the first place. Between the time of Constantine the Great and Anastasius, there were a lot of changes in the empire. Large chunks of it had fallen into the hands of the barbarians, and the constant pressure of war took a toll on the economy. When Anastasius became emperor, the treasury was all but empty. The coinage had been persistently devalued, and high inflation had been plaguing the empire for years. Just compare the coins of Constantius II around 350 AD with Arcadius's around 400, Marcion's around 450, and then Zeno's just before 500. The constant devaluation of copper coinage led to them shrinking in size until they were too small to have any design other than a simple monogram. Most copper coins from Zeno's time, called numia, are tiny, usually between 7 and 11 millimeters, typically weighing half a gram to 1 gram and a half, and are in terrible condition. Above them, there were no longer any silver coins to speak of. The Romans did use to have silver coins. Obviously, in the early empire, there were the denarii inherited from the Republic, as well as the large tetradrachmas in the east. During Constantine's reign, silver was still widely used. After that, though, the drying up of mines and loss of territory made silver increasingly scarce for large-scale production of silver coins, and so they were devalued over and over again, until, by Zeno's time, there was no longer any minting of silver coins. As for gold, there were 3 denominations: the gold solidus, the semices, worth 1/2 a solidus, and the trimissus, worth 1/3 of a solidus. Interestingly, the solidus was completely unaffected by the economic woes of the empire. Its weight and purity remained consistent, and it was both well regarded and completely trusted abroad. So as we can see, when Anastasius came to the throne, the only coins being minted were the tiny copper numia and the large gold solidus, with smaller quantities of its fractions, the semices and the trimisses, also being made. There doesn't seem to have been any intermediary between those, and the gap between them was huge. Exchange rates vary from time to time, but it's known that during the reign of the Western Roman Emperor Valentinian III, 1 solidus was worth 7,200 numia. On top of that, a single numian was practically worthless, since even a loaf of bread cost around 20 numia. This then led to the curious practice of carrying the numia in small bags, presumably of a set weight, and paying in bags of coins without actually counting them individually. This is likely where the name follis comes from, as follis means bag. So the coinage system was long overdue for a reform, and Anastasius, who had worked in the Ministry of Finance before becoming emperor, decided to solve the problem once and for all. The new system took as its basis the numian, and 4 denominations were introduced. The main one was the follis, worth 40 numia, then the half follis, worth 20 numia, the decanumian, 10 numia, and the pentanumian, 5 numia. Before we continue, I'd like to make a note about terminology. Unfortunately, the terms used for Byzantine coins still haven't been standardized, and so there are various spellings and even various words to refer to the same thing. Usually people use numis for the singular and numi for the plural when talking about these coins. I used to do this too, but while preparing for this video as well as the videos about the Justinian dynasty and Heraclian dynasty's coins, I read some books, and numismats really seem to prefer numian for singular and numia for plural. The logic is solid. Here's the explanation. While the word numis is definitely a real word and not a modern invention, and was really used way back during the Roman Empire, it's not actually Latin in origin, but was borrowed from the Doric Greek pneumos, which itself came from the ancient Greek nomos. Adelaide tried to look at ancient Greek declension tables to figure out how either pneumos or nomos ended up as numion, but she still doesn't get it. If anyone does know, please leave the explanation in the comment section below. We would genuinely like to know the answer. Numion doesn't seem to be a modern Greek word either, so perhaps it has nothing to do with grammar, and that's just how it was pronounced in Koine Greek. In any case, since we're talking about the Byzantine Empire, where most people spoke Greek, numion for singular and numia for plural makes more sense than using the Latin terms numis and numi. Anastasius's follis measure around 32 to 40 millimeters and weigh around 17.5 grams, The half-follis measure 24 to 28 millimeters and weigh around 8.5 grams. The decanumia come at 21 millimeters and weigh 4.3 grams. And finally, the pentanomia measure 12 to 15 millimeters and weigh around 2.3 grams. During Anastasius's reign, single numion coins were still minted. Note that it is very likely that these single numion coins from both Anastasius and his predecessors continued in circulation for quite some time. During Anastasius's reign, there were 3 active mints: Constantinople, Antioch, and Nicomedia. All of them minted all 4 denominations. The obverse of all of his coins depict Anastasius in the traditional Roman profile bust to the right, with the Latin legend D.N. Anastasius, PPAVG around. The reverses of Byzantine coins always show the value of the coin. In the beginning, the value was in Greek numbers, but from the reign of Tiberius II onwards, there are also types with Roman numerals. So, in Anastasius coins, the reverses show the values, M for the follies and K for the half-follis, with various combinations of stars and crosses. The decanumion has the value 1 and the legend Concordia around. The pentanumion has the value E, and the little numion coins have Anastasius's monogram. None of Anastasius's coins have the regnal year, but they do have both mint marks and officina marks. If you want to learn more about Byzantine mints and mint marks, we have a video coming up that's specifically about that topic. Anastasius's reform really marks a clear break between Roman and Byzantine coinage. The sizes, weights, and especially the designs were completely new. Things don't remain the same forever though, and over time a few trends can be noted. The most obvious is size and weight. As time passes, Anastasius's 30mm follies will go down to 28, then 26, and by Heraclius's time, there are follies that measure only 24mm and weigh 5 grams. The quality of the coins also goes down sharply, especially during Constans II and Constantine IV's reigns, and the mess that follows that. Part of the reason for this decrease in size was inflation. There were attempts to restore the original sizes and weights, notably during the reign of Constantine IV and later Leo III, but it never worked. Inflation also made the smaller denominations disappear, the numion during the time of Justinian, and the pentanumion and decanumion during the time of Heraclius. By the reign of Theophilus, only the follis was left, and after that, copper coins were no longer marked with M. What's interesting is that the inflation, once again, didn't affect the gold coins at all. The Byzantine gold solidus remained a trusted international currency, accepted by both the Muslims in the East and the barbarians in the West. Another interesting trend is the Greekification, if you will, of the coins. During Anastasius's time, the legend is clearly Latin. Over time, though, some of the Latin letters start being replaced by Greek letters, with the legend still being Latin, so it's a kind of transliteration. As time passes, more and more of the letters are Greek. Finally, with Constans II, the legend becomes completely Greek. The design of the coins also changes quite a lot. It starts out very Roman, with the traditional-looking bust of the emperor to the right. Then it changed to a full-facing bust in military attire, then in consular robes with these new kinds of crowns that Roman emperors had never worn before. By the time of Heraclius and Constans II, the way the Byzantines portrayed their emperors had really morphed into a unique style, a uniquely Byzantine style which continued to evolve through the centuries. Here's a coin from Constantine V, for example, in the 700s, Theophilus in the 800s, and Romanos I in the 900s. Around the year 1000, we have the anonymous follies. Here is one from Emperor Constantine IX. Then, Alexius makes his own coinage reform and introduces new denominations like the tetarteron and the trachy. The empire will still go on for another 400 years or so, but things pretty much go downhill after Alexius. The empire loses even more of its territory after the Crusaders come around, as well as its position as the dominant trade power in the Mediterranean. And so, with less and less territory, a dwindling population, and a sharp decrease in trade, less and less coins are needed. You can still find today quite a lot of coins from Alexius and his direct descendants, but the further down you go, the harder it is and the more expensive they are. And that's it for this one. If we made any mistakes or missed anything important about this topic, please leave a nicely worded comment below. Have a nice morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on when you're watching this video. And I hope to see you next time. Also, if you like collecting coins, or know someone who does, feel free to check out Adelaide's eBay store, the Spanish Galleon. We're also on Instagram, links in the description.